Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com.
We're back for another week, and let me tell you, gentlemen, the rush to clean up my room before the show, before the stream, for those people who are potentially watching this live, was pretty quick, pretty thorough, except for the giant pink thing in the corner, which kind of looks like a giant dildo. So I'm just going to go and
family show,
quickly move this one out of the way. It is, in fact, a foam roller.
Right, okay. Yeah, it kind of looks like it's wearing a little hat. I don't know what that's...
Yeah, it was. I thought it was just out of focus.
Adam's giving us gesticulating wildly with it for the purposes of visual comedy. Appreciate that, Adam. Thank you.
Visual comedy, but all the audio listeners obviously will not get that.
The audio listeners to this audio podcast might be slightly disappointed with that. But just imagine what a child would do if they had a giant pink dildo, that's what Adam was doing.
I prefer the term man-child. Thank you.
I was going to say a child or like a 20-something man at a sporting event. Really interchangeable.
Tom, 30-something at this point.
Oh, I know you are a 30-something.
Closing in on 40. Hello, ladies. So I don't know. We don't really need to do a show this week. I think everything's gotten better. Everything's fine.
Sometimes all the news is good, and you just go home and we get on, and there's nothing to talk about, and we just tell each other how much we love each other, just blow kisses at one another, and that's it. Hard to keep it up for 45 minutes to an hour, but that's what we have to do on those days, on those weeks when there is no news. But
drink a few beers and oh no, wait, sorry. Look, I just looked at the rundown. No, everything's still fucked.
Good news is for us, everything's still terrible for everyone.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
I don't love living through history. Can I just say that living through history fucking sucks? Like, I would really love to just live through the Great Pause. Like our parents who grew up in the 80s and 90s, where like the worst thing to happen was like, the Berlin Wall fell, or it was just like they grew up in this big pause where,
wasn't it?
Are you just forgetting like AIDS?
AIDS was pretty bad. AIDS was a bad one.
Cold War, nuclear apocalypse.
Maybe 90s.
Tiananmen Square.
Tiananmen Square was a bad one.
It was a really bad one.
I want to say
Vietnam.
Vietnam was a real hairy one. That was a bad look for us.
That was a real hairy one. The Kennedys.
Okay, all right. Well, you're going back a fair way, aren't you, Tom? You're reaching, aren't you?
These all happened in my parents' lives.
I think that to have that period
genocide in Africa,
where genocides. Yeah. Okay, well, obviously, look, I've read books too, guys. All right, but I feel like things since we have been growing up as I feel like the period between sort of 1991 and like 2007 was like pretty rosy. Like the worst thing that happened was like Princess Diana died, it's like things were largely fine for that stretch for white people.
I was going to say qualify
for rich white people.
I was just wondering how far along George was going to get before he realized he's forgotten 9/11.
Yep, 9/11 was bad. That was
the one thing that we're supposed to never forget.
And the Forever Wars. Yeah, now that I say it, maybe it's just always terrible.
And remember, the Gulf War, was that 91?
91.
Yeah,
am I making that up?
But they fucking...
We won that one, though.
Smashed that one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah.
So look,
I think rewind, George. All of that was horseshit.
Yeah, okay.
You just said.
All right, do you want to start again? Let's start again. All right. Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
And
we're not committing to that?
No, we're not committing
to that. No.
You're just going to hang me out to dry and make me look like an asshole to the listeners. I know bad things happened, okay? Can I just clarify? I just feel like things have escalated in the last 5 years, where they've just gotten
Well,
like
the things that have happened
dramatically
directly
worse.
affect you. That's the problem. Is the things that are happening.
Are you calling
It's
me
not someone
selfish?
else now. It's directly affecting you
Right,
and
right.
your life. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has been directly affecting you, George, is your inability to get a rat. And when I say rat, I am not talking about a fat rodent. I am talking.
Oh, there's plenty of them.
Oh, there's
like-
heaps of them. Yeah, you just go down to the bay.
Heaps of them. Free.
Yeah. Yep.
Free. You can just go and pinch them off the street.
What?
They're practically giving them away.
Wasn't
A
there
bit
a
of bubonic
rat?
plague thrown in there as well. Like, there's lots of good stuff.
Wasn't
Yeah,
there a
lots
rat
of yummy stuff.
infestation last year around May? Like there'd been
Mouse
mouse
infestation.
infestation.
Yeah, it was mice in New South Wales, right?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's still going potentially.
Yeah. I
actually.
don't think that ever stopped. I think we just kind of all went, all right, it's the mouse's territory now.
The mouse-
Also,
everything beyond the
so-
horizon. You shall never go there, Simba. It belongs to the mice. So
no, we're talking about a rapid antigen test. is
I'm
what we're
just
talking about.
wondering when the river turns red with blood, the locusts come, the firstborn dies. Like, I'm just waiting for the other. We've had a number of signs of the apocalypse and the various sort of plagues. I think the dearth of rapid antigen tests is in there. It's definitely on the list, but didn't make the final edit, and
Let me
that's
just
why we
grab
don't.
my Bible and I'll just go through it. Let me just go to
Mhm.
Revelations. We'll just skip.
Well, they did mention plague. They just
True,
didn't have the technology for plague tests at the
let's
time.
see.
Yeah.
So
9,321, verse 4, chapter 5, something like that. I don't know how the Bible goes anymore.
The Bible is?
Pretty long, Tom. I don't know.
that's a long one.
I don't think it cracks 1,000. Does
I
it
have a
crack
Bible here.
1,000
I have a
pages?
Bible.
I don't think it does. Otherwise, how would they fit it in every hotel bedside table?
With great difficulty.
It's the read of the millennium, Tom, or several millenniums, in fact.
Several millennium
But
ago.
yes, the rapid antigen test cometh is on that page.
or refuses to cometh, as the case may be.
Or refuses to
Yeah,
go.
the rapid antigen tests cometh and taketh away by the government. Is mainly the story that we're looking at here.
So despite multiple years of the pandemic being a thing and rapid antigen test makers approaching the government in advance to facilitate orders, well in advance of this crisis, the Australian federal government, in unlikely style, has completely fumbled the fucking tits off this crisis, not ordered enough rapid antigen tests, and there's been a real lack of them in the community, especially when restrictions have changed. Well, not restrictions, guidance has changed to say a lot of the testing that we've been doing, which is PCR nasal swabs, can be replaced by rapid antigen tests. So simultaneously, there's a real lack of supply in the community and the demand has skyrocketed and things have all gone to shit. So
We've talked about that over the last 2 weeks. I think what's interesting now over the last week, fortnight or so, is that the federal government decided that, look, we've responded, we've listened, we've learned. We're going to make the rapid antigen tests free, but you can only have 5. You have to be a concession card holder.
Yeah, to a specific group of people being sort
the
of
rising
particularly-
sign has to be Pisces, and you can only get them on a Tuesday from specific health outlets.
Okay, now my
and-
my rising sign is a Pisces, but my moon sign is actually Aries. So where does that put me?
Well, no, you don't qualify then. So you have
Okay,
to
now
go-
if Jupiter's ascending, what is that again? How does that impact?
well, that would therefore mean that if you carry the 1, that you probably might squeeze in there, but only if you wait for more than an hour.
Gotcha. And I'm left-handed. How does that factor in?
The more information you give me, the worse it gets.
Okay, that's good. You are the Australian government. That's a convincing approximation, Adam. Well done. I thought we were doing satire. It turns out we were just doing an actual role play of the Australian government.
So since they've done that, they've had to try and get the supply to be able to facilitate that promise. We're talking tens of thousands, millions. Well, actually, how many tests are we talking about? Actually, I don't know exactly.
I think the government promised,
Number.
I think it was something like 34 million tests to be delivered at some point.
A lot of tests.
So, I mean, significant numbers of tests. But not when you think that, like, you got to get them, whenever you go to another state, or, you got to get them regularly for work, or like if that's your thing and you're going through a couple of tests a week, that 34 million starts to dry up pretty fucking quickly. So,
and yeah, I guess the thing being is if there's a stockpile of tests, which private suppliers, which there was the initial, for most people, I guess that's where you go. You go to a chemist or a super or whatever, and you buy it, from that supply. They are coming from other suppliers that have a certain stockpile of those things. But when the federal government decides to lay claim to some of that initial supply, the shit starts to hit the fan.
So would you say they declared sort of rat test nullius? They said these rat tests don't belong to anyone. What do you mean we've paid for them? They're on the way from the supplier. No. Actually, they belong to us. I claimed this rat in the name of England because it didn't belong to anyone before I got here. It's just history doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes.
So effectively what's happened is there are numerous instances of particular pharmacies reporting that they had orders, that there were deliveries en route to that particular pharmacy, paid up to $4,000.
Which they paid for in advance, yeah.
Yep. And those have, due to, there's a couple of reasons. One is just a general, the flight was cancelled because COVID.
Only they had some rat tests.
Only if they had some rat tests. But also, as it turns out, the government sort of went, mine now.
Which is which is so a government thing to do, which is not actually increase the supply of rats at all, not initiate some sort of Defense Production Act kind of thing like they have in the US, where they're like, okay, the government's going to take control and mandate XYZ facilities, manufacture this thing in the interest of the nation. They don't do anything. They've just taken the same number of rats and just redistributed them elsewhere to make themselves look better at the expense of retailers who've already paid for these rats to be delivered. It's just not they haven't solved the problem. They've just moved it around.
Yeah, you just shuffle some things around until it seems like it's fixed.
I don't know, Tom, have you ever done a painting or tried to do some cooking or something, and you've just decided, I haven't got quite enough of one ingredient or a paint color, and I've just smushed one corner of the tray or of the canvas into one. Just get it, thin it out, thin the dough out. Let's do that.
I mean, I have had to pull some weird ingredients out of my ass just to get a dish to work sometimes when you're like, I've forgotten one key thing. This is a good substitute. Like the one time when my brother and I were quite a bit younger and we wanted to make nachos, but we were missing quite a few ingredients. And we were like, well, we don't have corn chips. Corn flakes are pretty much the same, right? So things Tom, like that. That'll do, right? Or we don't have any sour cream. Well, ice cream has cream in it, right?
You're just missing all of the ingredients. You just want to make something that you do not have the ingredients for.
Yeah, pretty much.
I want to make spaghetti bolognese, but I don't have spaghetti tomato sauce or beef. It's just those are the ingredients that make up. You're just making something else. You're just putting ice cream on cornflakes at that stage.
So, Tom, take that logic and then apply that to government policy, and we have the situation that we're in at the moment.
All right, perfect. But at least there's cheese in these rat tests, right?
That's true. There is cheese.
All right, we got the cheese.
Old English, not
actually
cheddar,
a pretty good explanation, I think, as to how government policy is created. It's just like the policy equivalent of Googling what can I use instead of cornstarch. No one ever. What the fuck is cornstarch? I've never seen it. I've never used it. I don't know what it is. It just turns up in recipes every now and then, and I need to replace it with something.
Well, love it, brilliant. I'm glad that really ill-advised afternoon has come back to help 20 years later.
It's worth it. Now that afternoon is actually a tax write-off because we've used it for show purposes.
Yeah, wonderful.
Not actual.
Sure I just dig up the receipt.
Just make sure you got the receipts.
Yeah, and I dig up the receipt for those ingredients that we didn't buy.
But you didn't have.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened.
Just to be clear, does not constitute accounting advice.
So the net result of all that, of course, is that the average middle-class Australian who potentially may have COVID is unable to get a test or has maybe been exposed. If you've got symptoms, you can still go get a PCR test. If you've got,
but like we're unable to take the tests that are supposed to be the kinds of tests that are substituting the PCR test. It's amazing that they've got it as the PCR test system's so overwhelmed that we've got a substitute because the rapid tests are actually quite good and you can just get them from a chemist. So yeah, that's a good solution. It's like, yeah, but we can't. But so, and also, it only works as a system if we're just able to have them on hand at home. Yes. Because I was thinking about it the other day is when it's like, before my partner and I went to get PCR tests, that if we were like, we're feeling a bit throaty or like sick and have we been exposed? We should take a rat test. I don't want to hit up 6 pharmacies looking for them because what if I have it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's the point.
What we want to do is if you're experiencing symptoms, we want you to hit up crowded indoor places as much as fucking possible over the next 2 weeks in order to get your hands on some rapid tests. Yeah.
It's fucking Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger trying to go around and get the Turbo Man. Have you guys seen that movie?
No, that's a very deep cut, Adam.
That's a very deep cut.
Have we seen Jingle All the Way? What do you take me for, Adam? Of course I've seen Jingle All the Way. Of course I've seen the seminal Christmas classic that is 1996's, I want to say, Jingle All the Way.
I don't know. Remember, Tom, you're my number one customer.
But yes, it does defeat the point of the rapid test if you cannot acquire them with rapidity. That's
yes,
the
if
rapid.
I can't just have them in my medicine cabinet for when I need it, like it's Panadol. Incidentally, I was at a chemist the other day, and Jesus fuck, there was no painkillers left.
Yeah.
Either everyone's really sick, probably, or someone is having a big night.
Well, the young kids are like hungover, so because they're all out partying with one another, and so they've all got headaches for that. They're using it for the hangover, and then they're using it for the subsequent COVID infection that they got from all hanging out with one another. There was a younger guy at work who was like, "Oh yeah, I went here, I went there, I went." I was just like, mate, could you fucking not? Could you? Yeah. I've just been like self-imposed isolation, hanging out in my house, like stressing out about my sick dog, and like that's my weekend. Is just like, and he's just like, oh yeah, went to the football, went to this, hung out with so and so. I'm just like, I know that there's no restrictions, but could you just like not be the person that you are?
It's one of these things where. I don't know, like we've talked about it again I'm kind of getting sick of harping on about it, but the death count's about 40 to 50 people a day nationwide. That continues at this rate for the next sort of couple of months. You're looking at thousands and thousands of people dying in the space of a year. So, I guess the question that, and then Norman Swan's also put this is, what do we want the casualty rate to be? What do we think what do we think that's acceptable? And I guess part of the other question is like, well, if the government's not really willing to make a call on that, I guess, young people and people that are inherently selfish, which is probably something, what I'm starting to think is that that's most of the Australian population when push comes to shove. We're probably inherently pretty selfish. When push comes...
Having said that, though, like a lot of people, like 94% of Victorians have gotten vaccinated. Like, so there is a selfless element there. Maybe it's just self-preservation. People go, I want to save me, save myself. And then maybe if other people get saved along the way, then fantastic. But yeah, there is especially on the conservative side of politics right now, and well, going all the way back to John Howard, over the last sort of 20 plus years, there has been a real, almost like highly right-wing libertarian kind of, Ayn Randian aspect to that, where it's just like, well, I'm going to look after myself and you all can, do whatever you like. And, suck eggs if you don't like it. If you ended up getting sick or you end up... I saw this really sad article where this woman was talking about, she's a girl, she's 27 and she's got like stage 4 cancer and might be her last, months on this earth. And she's like terrified to leave the house because she knows if she get it, she's going to die. And she has this condition where, she might need to go to the hospital suddenly, hypoadrenia, something or other. And she needs to be at the hospital pretty quickly in order to offset this condition. And you just can't do that if the hospitals are all backed up with COVID patients. So it's just like, it is really like bordering on eugenics, this kind of like psychotic individualism at the expense of everyone else. Or if you're weak, if you're sick, if you're disabled, if you're elderly, you can go fuck yourself, survival of the fittest. Like, it's actually quite psychotic.
Yeah. But don't worry about it, because you can still go to the Hillsong Music Festival and have a great time.
What a fucking
That's true.
relate.
Yeah, your last couple months to live. Yeah, sick. You know what? Got to tick that off the bucket list. Got to go to the awesome mega televangelist church bullshit music festival. Oh,
I saw
miss it.
I saw an Aussie band saying maybe we should start a church so we can do some gigs. Hey,
I think a pub
was it
essentially did do that.
All
No,
right.
I don't know. Like, musicians might have said it, but I thought I haven't seen if they actually went through with it, or like whether it was just them kind of trying to, jab with some elbows in the media. But they were saying like, we're going to start doing a Sunday service at our pub, so we're allowed to be open.
Why not?
Because fuck, if the church can just fucking get away with it.
So for those who don't know, Hillsong is one of these like cool modern churches for young people who like to fuck. I guess I don't know exactly what their fucking
they're one of
demographic
the big
is.
happy clappy stadium
Yeah,
bullshit.
They're actually
lots of singing,
not
lots of
Methodist.
music,
Yeah.
sort of event, whatever it is,
That's the word?
Pentecostal, sort of like quite religious,
Pentecostal.
but also
Pentecostal.
like trying to be the cool, preacher at camp kind of vibe. That's the impression
Oh yeah,
I get from
sitting
Hillsong.
on a chair backwards, talking about how Jesus was also cool.
Hey kids, let's get real about Jesus.
Yeah.
Now,
you know
look,
who else had 1 million followers on TikTok? Jesus.
Jesus had many before he was brutally murdered by the authorities at the time. Anyway, so the reason why this is a thing, why we're talking about Hillsong, is that Dominic Peronio, or Peritoneo, however the fuck you pronounce his
Dominic
last name.
Perineum.
No one actually, Perineum, no one knows.
Dom Perignon.
Dom Perignon did a bit of a backflip. He loves a good backflip because it turns out going hell for leather and let it rip isn't actually a good policy. Turns out the New South Wales health system is struggling, which we talked about last week. You can listen to that episode if you want.
Who could have foreseen? Who but for three fucking middle-aged, I guess we're getting to middle-age, who but for three white podcasters could have seen this coming, except for fucking everyone, except for all of the experts. Who could have seen it coming, except all of us?
So they put some density limits in, and one of the things that they've also banned is singing and dancing like it's fucking Footloose.
Yeah, we're back in the Footloose timeline.
Kevin Bacon's very upset.
Singing and dancing basically at venues. So that includes, music festivals. Now, some other festivals actually had to cancel because of this. So we're talking about cancellation of events, including Tamworth Country Music Festival, Grapevine Gathering in Hunter Valleys. These are all New South Wales events. Other states have put similar things in as well. I know Tasmania, for instance, had something similar. You couldn't go to a nightclub and dance for months during the earlier lockdowns. But
I love that it's specifically a thing of like, you can't go there and dance
or sing,
which implies to me that you could just all go there and just stand perfectly still in the tight enclosed space and just eyeball each other. Like, I mean, you can go to the nightclub and we will play the pump and music, but if you so much as smile, you're out of here, buddy.
You better not be enjoying it. I can't sing. No. Can I dance? No. Can I whistle?
No.
No. Can I hum it?
No. He's like, no,
you can
have to
eye fuck each other.
Perfectly still, no singing, no dancing, but definitely still ggiving the virus to each other, you filthy, filthy peasants.
I mean, you could just lick each other. I don't know, but look, so the thing is that this Hillsong music event went ahead.
Not a music festival, okay?
No,
just because
according to them, not a music festival.
Just because there's people hanging outside, going to large performances, gathering, singing and dancing together, does not make it a music festival, even though it literally meets all of the definitions of what a music festival is. Does not make it a music festival. It was a religious service.
Yes, it walks and quacks much like a music festival.
Yeah.
So, Dom Perignon, he did say the other day that the health minister had been advised by his legal team that the Hillsong had broken the rules. But despite that, it doesn't look like they're actually going to get any sort of fine or punishment out of it.
Yeah. So
now, apropos of nothing, just a completely unrelated note. Our Prime Minister is a member of said church. Go on. Those two things cannot be possibly related. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah,
But sorry,
it's
Adam,
weird that
I interrupted you.
Yeah, it's almost like seems kind of apropos of nothing that you brought that up, Tom. But yeah, that's weird.
Seems completely irrelevant, and I don't even know why I'm still dedicating time to
I know
the
why you're
fact
still
that our
talking
Prime
about it.
Minister is part of the church that was found to be breaching the rules and will subsequently not be punished.
Yep, I don't see
Why
what.
am I even still thinking about it?
I don't think that has
know.
any. I don't know. The fact that we're still talking about it even now is quite strange to me.
Yeah. It's practically it's nonsense. It's nonsense.
I don't know how
why
we
we're
get
even
out of this
talking about
weird doom loop where we just keep talking about
Yeah.
a completely irrelevant thing that has no bearing on the situation. So
it. Yeah, there's absolutely no bearing. Like, it doesn't matter that Scott Morrison's a member of Hillsong Church.
No, it doesn't. But the Hillsong have also said they've apologised for giving the perception that it wasn't playing its part in keeping New South Wales safe.
yeah, it's not the perception that I'm worried about.
Honey, I'm sorry I was giving you the perception that I was fucking your sister. Like,
Hang
I'm
on,
so
what?
sorry. I'm
Tom,
so
you did
sorry that I'm giving you that perception. Like, I mean, she was
Hang on.
there and I was there.
Are
and-
you
and
actually?
the fact
are you actually fucking my
the
sister?
continuing
Like,
perception that I'm still pumping away. I'm so sorry about that. While making eye contact with you.
Oh, Jesus. That's an image and a half.
Oh my
Anyway.
God.
This was after videos emerged showing hundreds of attendees without masks engaged in singing and dancing without masks in a large tent while a band performed on stage. I don't know how else to describe this other than a music festival. Like, I didn't know. I didn't know that people got so horny for Jesus. Number one.
People get real horny for Jesus, and it's very strange because while Jesus himself may have approved, because I thought Jesus himself was very much about being tolerant of others.
He was a good time guy. All right, turning water into wine. Jesus liked to party, right?
And he spent a lot of time with like the sex workers of the time and all that sort of stuff. Like he had no judges over people's like horniness.
Love sharing a meal.
Yeah, that too. But all the people who have decided to do a whole bunch of shit in his name, probably not fans of being really horny for Jesus.
I don't know. It sounds like a good time. I might go when things are normal again. I might go look to one of these. Sounds like a big day out. No big day out anymore. That's finished for good. That's cancelled, that festival. So
I did once go to a church function just because it was a free gig for two bands that I liked. I didn't realize that those two bands were quite religious in and of themselves from their content, but I was like, free gig with these two bands? Hell yeah, I'll be there.
It's weird that Black Sabbath is playing at this church, but you know what? I'm into it. It's I don't look, if you get Childish Gambino on the lineup, I'm in.
I don't know whether or not you might actually have to pay for these festivals with Hillsong. That's an interesting question.
That's all right.
I mean, that's true. It is literally nothing more but a money making.
If they're a religion, do they have to be a not-for-profit by definition? I actually don't know the rules on that, or whether they can make a profit off their endeavors.
Well, I just know that they don't have to pay any taxes because of
So according to the Daily Telegraph, mega churches such as Hillsong have taken full advantage of this, rewarding its leaders tax-free. The pastor of a church assigned to Hillsong says. So yeah, it seems like a deductible gift recipient. So it seems like they don't get taxed because they're a charity. Yeah, 100 million a year from its tax-exempt Australian operations as of 2015. Fuck.
Yum.
I really like, the more I hear about these religions, I really feel as though we should start one like Church of the Spaghetti Monster. Let's do it up. Like, real atheist, secular religion, where it's all just about being nice to people and raising money to do good things rather than give people COVID at not music festivals.
It's fine. The hospital system's doing fine. Don't worry about it.
Hey, I'm just got a person here from the hospital systems and they're just screaming like Edvard Munch. So I don't know if that's like Edvard Munch's The Scream. So I don't know if that's really just silent screaming like Brecht. But I don't know if that might be something that the New South Wales government necessarily wants to listen to. So
I think almost to Dom Perignon's credit, before it came out that his name's Dominic Perrottet, in case you weren't sure who we were referring to all this time.
Perrottet.
No, you
I
don't
was-
pronounce the T. The last one.
Soft T,
Yeah,
right.
soft T on the
So
end.
it's
The New South Wales Premier. I just realised we never actually sort of acknowledged who we were talking about, and we were just riffing off these fantastic nicknames. But we never actually established who we're talking about, especially for anyone who's not in Australia. Anyway,
Dominic
the head of the state
Perrottet,
of New South
the
Wales-
Premier for New South Wales, and
Yeah.
unmitigated boob.
Well, unmitigated boob and unstoppable fuck machine. You know how many kids he has?
Oh, really?
I think his wife's pregnant with the 7th.
Dang, Dom can get it.
Yeah, he fucks.
This guy fucks.
This guy fucks.
You wouldn't know it to look at him.
Can confirm. But at least, he fucks in, like, at least the more acceptable way than, say, like, Barnaby Joyce. Because
Yeah.
we all know Barnaby Joyce also fucks. But that context is very different.
Yes, I would like to clarify. Dom Perrottet can get it within the confines of a legal union.
Oh, yes.
Now,
He can get it with his wife.
Yes.
Rather than Barnaby Joyce, who no longer can get it from his wife because he got it from his staff.
doesn't he now have a new wife? Isn't that, are they married?
I think they
Anyway,
are married. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't follow the root rat. Anyway,
the taxes.
What was
we
what
So
was
what-
I even?
what
Why
were you
was
gonna
I
say
bringing
about-
up Dom Perignon? Oh,
Perignon.
Before it was a thing that, maybe Hillsong will probably get away with this. The very fact that in a press conference he was straight up saying, like, I'm really disappointed and, like, fully, really angry at Hillsong for what they've done because the rules are rules for a reason, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I was like, oh, okay, the Liberal Premier, like, having it out at the church that the Liberal Prime Minister is a part of. I was like, okay, that's going to ruffle some feathers. But then, of course, no feathers were ruffled. But, for a glimpse, like a little glimpse there, I was a bit like, on you, Dom. And then he fucked it because no one's going to do anything.
Did you have hope, Tom? Was there hope in that thought process?
Maybe not hope, just more, the part of me that's a messy bitch and lives for drama, just like a little flutter in the heart. I was just like, ooh, this is going to create some juicy drama.
Well, Tom, I know you're a messy bitch, and if you want some drama, I've got a story for you. So, we know that Hillsong don't pay taxes, but your tax dollars and currently in terms of what they're being spent on, lots of things, not as much on the pandemic as we would like, because apparently the Australian government has locked in a deal to buy $3.5 billion worth of
rat tests?
M1. No, sorry, no. Let me
Oh.
just get this one. M1A2 main battle tanks.
Now,
are they
sorry.
they houses the homeless can live in?
No,
Are they
murder and mayhem.
So they're not like a way to allow people who live below the poverty line to no longer do that? To live above the poverty line? Oh.
No, they're an armored fighting vehicle that is designed to kill and maim as many people and as efficiently as possible.
Oh, not to kill and maim like social inequalities?
No, mostly probably China, like
China.
and
Right,
of that,
right, okay.
something of that ilk. Yeah,
Yes.
To fix the supply chain issues coming out of China.
No, just
No,
in case we need them.
So,
Right,
sorry.
to kill and maim the chip shortages that's been going around technology worldwide.
No, they're gonna just they're literally like if you see someone you don't like it's and then you feel threatened by them, you can shoot at them with this tank, providing of course that your tank and the target or whatever that may be are in the same sort of physical location. You may be able to,
and doing that will somehow acknowledge our sordid past and begin the path of reconciliation to changing the date of Australia Day.
No, none of that. We're not.
I'm trying to understand what possible reason there would be.
It's all about making you feel safe. It's about keeping you safe, Tom. That's what it's about.
Keeping me safe from climate change.
No, from the existential Asian threat that we are now facing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
In 10 years, of course. Not right now. In 10 years. Because it takes time to get these vehicles in and to have them.
Okay, in 10 years.
Yep.
And by that time, they'll have legalized weed.
Probably. I mean, you know what? Maybe they will have. Who knows?
Okay, I'm clutching at straws. I've run out of things.
It's honestly like fucked how much I would forgive this government for if they legalized weed. Like, it is legitimately like they could go on being heinous shitheads for the next 3 terms, and I'd be like, but they did legalize weed.
Yeah,
yes, they wasted $3.5 billion on tanks to distract from Novak Djokovic, which was a distraction from the unavailability of rat tests and the collapsing healthcare system and the disrupted supply chains. But we did get some weed. So, yes, I'm unhappy about it, but at least I'm numb.
To be clear, they are not legalizing weed.
No.
And probably
maybe Scott
won't.
Morrison's keeping that in the back pocket for there's a point when the news cycle will get so absolutely fucked you can't even detain a tennis player to try and distract from it that they'll just legalize weed.
They've always got that in their back pocket. I would forgive them for that. Would cover. I have a nearly infinite reserve of goodwill for whoever legalizes weed. So just keep that in mind, guys. So I've never been a voter. I don't plan to be a voter, but I might yell less about you on the internet if you legalized weed. So I'm just
probably because you'll be stoned.
Because I'll be stoned out of my mind. Yeah, legally, of course. Only if it were legal.
Yeah, fuchsia blend. I don't do weed, so I actually don't know whether fuchsia.
I don't do weed. If ever there was a fucking sentence that told you that Adam does not do drugs whatsoever, I don't do weed would have to be fucking up there. Jesus Christ.
I'm completely inept in this area, but I'm pretty sure you don't do weed.
Okay, whatever. We're talking about tanks, okay?
Okay.
We love a good tank in Australia.
You do tanks. So
you're not getting tanked, buying tanks. So
buying tanks.
It just seems to me that buying tanks, which are primarily a land-based vehicle, if I'm not mistaken, the latest research would indicate to me that they are largely land/amphibious vehicles and not meant to go in the air or in the sea. The utility of these kinds of vehicles might be somewhat limited in a maritime air conflict with China. Would you not agree? Defense expert Adam, senior defense correspondent Adam Doreen. What is your comment on the complete fucking uselessness of these dumb machines to feed the military-industrial complex? I hope I didn't colour the question.
You've coloured it a little bit. So we're buying 75 of them. We've currently got 59 tanks at the moment in the Australian Army. Now,
I'm sure the Chinese are shaking in their boots, by the way.
They're shaking in their boots.
Whoa. 59 and they're going to have 90? Better back off the invasion, boys.
No, these
guys are pretty muscled up.
The old ones we're going to throw out.
Oh, good.
And these are like replacements and just we'll get a couple extra ones for some fun. And we'll get some bridge building tanks as well. Getting a couple of bridge building tanks.
Who are they fighting? Are we going to the Somme? What fucking conflict are they expecting that we're going to need tanks? It's just nonsensical. Why the fuck?
George, the kind of conflict where...
We haven't got money for rats. We can't pay. No, we can't pay. Everything can't be free, says Scott Morrison, whilst paying $3.5 billion for useless tanks to feed the military-industrial complex. You fucking fascist. Wasn't a question, more of a comment.
It'll be the kind of conflict where we just tell China to build a bridge.
They are good at building stuff.
With our bridge building tanks.
So just for context, the Australian Army, or the Australian Defence Force in general, is going through an arms build-up, right? It's the percentage of GDP allocated to defence spending is increasing. I think it's going up to something like 2% of GDP over the next decade or so, up from what was, I think, 1% of GDP before. So they're spending a shitload of money on defence. Now, as a part of that, whether or not this was a premeditated purchase or whether or not it was something that they've gone, the Army's put a request.
Had a couple wines and we're just on Amazon and just went,
good deal.
I can afford it, tag.
Is that what?
75.
Because that's how I bought my Nintendo Switch. I was a couple of daddy juices in. I was just like, I really fucking need a Nintendo Switch. I've just been wanting one for ages, and it's just it's a good price. You're just gonna pick one up.
You know what? Fuck it.
Let's just do it. Fuck it. I'm an adult. I can be good to myself.
So whether or not that was something that was, a bit of a, shall we say, impulse buy, whether that was something that was flagged for a while, I'm not sure. And obviously, the defence budget is something that has been allocated well in advance, and they're free to spend it on whatever they are. They're also buying, for context, they're also buying new armoured fighting vehicles to replace the APCs that we've got, and they're buying a bunch of other shit as well.
But just because it's
self-propelled howitzers
allocated, I just don't understand this rationale of like, well, just because it's allocated, we've got to spend the money. It's in there. It's in the budget. And if we don't spend the budget, they won't give us any more budget. So, but like,
and
there's other things.
That's the logic that the army's working with.
I know.
Now,
but what I'm saying is that is us backwards.
Yes.
Because you'd be like, we got all this money, we got to spend it on dumb shit. It's like, or here's an idea, we could spend it on, like, to me, this is like announcing new wallpaper for the house that is burning down. Like, this is not the priority, right? They're just like, we're going to spend a shitload of money on new wallpaper. It's like, well, the East Wing is now charcoal, so I don't know where the fuck this is all. Why not focus the money on things that might do good elsewhere rather than useless things that might do good 10 years into the future?
So you could argue that there is a valid argument that could say that this is not the priority right now. And you could spend this money on potentially getting rats.
That's a astute observation, Adam. That might be the argument that I'm making.
More staff for hospitals, doing anything to literally save lives.
Have you tried doing anything?
National crisis.
Maybe anything. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
But look, in terms of the like, if you put that aside, and I think that's a pretty. I agree. I think we should not be spending money on tanks right now. But to answer George's earlier point, the reason why they want tanks, and there are people within the army that have argued about this. Like, what's the point? We haven't deployed them since Vietnam. The ones the armored fighting vehicles we have deployed overseas have been ones that can carry troops as well and do multiple different things. Why do we need main battle tanks? But the concept is the army over the last 10 years.
How about a couple of blunderbusses? You never know. Not? Maybe a crossbow.
The army has reorganized over the last sort of 10 years or so to become 3 multi-role combat brigades, which are centered around a mechanized element. So as part of that concept is you could pick up one of those 3 brigades at any point and deploy them amphibiously, so via ships or whatever else that we've spent our money on, to any particular hotspot in the world. So, for instance, if the Papua New Guinea, if there's a crisis there, we can send some people off there to do some work, or if they're the Philippines, which we discussed in our message thread, if
there's a crisis in Carlton, say, for example, we discovered there were a bunch of people that were being detained against their will for nigh on a decade for no reason whatsoever. Maybe we could deploy those forces there in order to liberate those poor prisoners from these fucking inner city gulags. What about that? Would that be a good use of that?
No, the tanks will probably be there to keep them in.
I was gonna say, I love that you phrase it like that, George, because if they were going to deploy the defense force to the Carlton detention center, it would be to keep them in. It would be to keep people from liberating them.
How do people not just walk around screaming? Like, how are we all not just like
you just headphones in the ear and it drowns out what's going on around.
I actually quite like some really
soothing
work. I actually really like the soothing kind of music you get when you go into a massage parlor, and it's all just like soft vocals with some waves crashing in the background.
Binaural beats, kind of.
Or the PlayStation 4 menu music.
Exactly, that's exactly right, Tom.
It's just like a spa.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that prevents you from becoming. And that prevents you from becoming an active shooter, is what you're saying. Is the abundance of spa music is basically what prevents you from becoming a human torch.
I'm not going to say no to that.
Our very sensible gun control, but that's a whole nother discussion.
I mean, the other question really is, so if you would put aside where could you spend the money elsewhere, like strategically, do the tanks stack up? Like, could you spend that $3.5 billion on something better? The answer is yes, as well. So you could spend it on unmanned aerial weapons, bombers,
hospitals,
you could spend it on ships,
nurses, education.
Like, from a defense point of view,
you get the military to set up hospitals for COVID patients.
Maybe we should rephrase it as to be like, maybe the thing that the defense force needs to be defending us against is COVID.
We need to fight COVID.
And then they can spend their defense money defending us against COVID. That'd be cool.
But anyway, as to when these tanks will be delivered, no one's really sure. But
good. I'm glad we spent $3.5 billion on
hang
something
on.
that we don't know when it's going to turn up. Again, like the drunken Amazon purchase analogy, we'll forget we ordered them, and then maybe they'll rock up in the mail one day, and we'll be like, fuck, I wasn't expecting this surprise.
Yeah, the difference is, if you buy something from Amazon, it's likely to turn up in 2 days, whereas these tanks might take several fucking years, at which point they'll be out of date by the time they arrive.
Well, yes, and it will turn up in the 2 days, probably in equally as an unethical fashion as
here we go. Sorry.
the ways that these tanks will be deployed.
The first vehicles are expected to be delivered to us. And this is the other thing. We're not even making them. There's no jobs and growth argument for this. It's maybe we'll maintain them a little bit, but they're going to be delivered to Australia in 2024 and expected to enter service in 2025. And that's the first of them. And I'll probably.
Cool. But from where? Who's building them?
America.
Oh, cool. Is this also part of the screw over France thing?
I think this is literally just like, you're just going to buy a bunch of stuff from us because we're America and we made this deal with you. So whenever we say jump, you say how high. Like, I really do think it is purely military industrial complex, fucking self-feeding golem nonsense.
I mean, because we've already spent, there's a lot of investment at the moment as a part of the early infantry fighting vehicles that I was talking about. There's already a lot of investment in those. So the concept is they're going to leverage off, I guess, the manufacturers of those, which are things like, BAE Systems and other kinds of, large defense manufacturers that are in Australia. So these guys are going to help, I guess, maintain these vehicles. But it's born out of, at its core, a military industrial complex that's creeping into the Australian psyche, because we have this sort of, and Turnbull started it with the ships, the concept of using military spending to kickstart the tech economy. But, as to whether or not that's, really affecting the broad swathe of the Australian populace and actually doing anything to help the economy, remains to really be seen, given the fact that they cancelled all the submarines that were a key part of that.
Remains to be seen is Adam's a very polite way of saying not fucking at all, none whatsoever.
Not fucking at all.
I just imagine, what would a $3.5 billion direct investment in our arts community do? Before the pandemic struck, it was a $16 billion turnover a year industry, live music, arts, entertainment, with dollar multiplier effects that ripple out through other kinds of hospitality, accommodation, restaurants. What would a focused investment of $3.5 billion do for an area like that? The things that could be achieved, the things that could be done, there's just no parallel. But instead, we're just we'll have some fucking tanks of dubious value, thanks. And it's just why?
Mind as well.
Why do we continue to choose not to solve problems at the expense of, at the expense of everything and everyone else in this country, because we've got such a hard on for fucking planes, trains, and automobiles? It just does. It honestly defies logic. I cannot understand where this. I have no theory of mind for these people. I
think it is literally, what you said before, whereas they've been allocated a budget and they've got to spend it. It's literally what it is, and it's the same.
Otherwise, they won't get the same amount next year.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Circular fucking logic, honestly.
Yeah, it's exactly the same for any government, department, whether it be the infrastructure department or the health department or whatever. They've got to spend the money if they've been given it.
So much for fiscal, the stewards of the economy and all this sort of shit. They're oh, we have to spend money on dumb shit because we've spent so much money on dumb shit already that we couldn't possibly. It's just I don't know, if there was a need, if there was we're building up the submarines. It is a ludicrous amount of money to spend on this project, but at least I understand as a citizen how it factors into a potential naval engagement with China. I understand what the submarines would be.
The submarines are actually less logical than the tanks are, to be honest.
Then I don't fucking know. At least on the surface, it made sense to me. They're okay, submarines are going to be in the water. I think it's a shit use of $100 billion, but okay, fine. I accept the premise
because
of this
point of the
fake forever war that you're trying to start up. But
the point of the
tanks makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean the other thing to keep in mind as well is because we already have the same kind of tank. We're just buying the next version of it. So and the M1A1 that delivery was completed in 2007. So the ones we've currently got are less than what how many years is that? Like less than 10 years old?
That's 15.
17,
15.
less than 20 years old.
Yeah, so we're literally just going
So-
from the iPhone 12 to the iPhone 13 because it looks cool, I guess.
Basically.
Oh, it's blue. This one's blue, so that's good.
Oh, neat.
That's actually a pretty good analogy. We're just upgrading model because basically. It doesn't make sense strategically.
I would like you to know that this whole conversation, whilst enlightening, has only made me more mad about the situation than I was when I posted the article. Can I just say? It hasn't made me less mad. If anything, it's just made me more mad.
It's a poor spending of money given the current situation. But that probably says something about the limitations of government bureaucracy in the face of a crisis. And again, comes back to the fact that given the fact we are in an emergency situation, we're basically at war with the virus right now. But the government has not transitioned to a war type economy where you spend things on things that you need. We're still in this sort of bureaucratic, like as if things are normal, and they're not.
It's so crazy what their priorities are. Like, there's no rat test. No one prepared for this surge of, demand for rat tests. But like, oh, it's good that we spent the last couple of weeks of last year making sure that gay teachers could get fired. Like, it's just like what the fuck are you, like, where's your fucking head at? I don't understand. Like, are you just, I don't know. I try to see the other side. I'm like, oh, maybe their perspective is that they're not a bunch of cunts. And like, it's just because, like I'm trying to see like where they think they're coming from. But I mean,
that is their perspective, but
it just like not only are they bad at their jobs, but they're also bad people. And they're just like you're just, I want to see both sides, bipartisan, but it's just like your politics are dumb and you are also dumb and inept and just morally bad. Like, I don't know how else to conceive of it.
Now, just to wrap up this week, just to touch back on things happening internationally, just with the Russia-Ukraine thing, we mentioned a week or two ago that things were looking good. They were going to talk. They were going to have a productive conversation, just like we do here on this podcast, where we'll talk over the top of one another, but eventually we come to some sort of agreement.
What Adam's trying to say is where George talks over us. And first of all, Adam, fuck you, shut your mouth.
Case in point. So they have had those talks now and didn't do anything. It's potentially made the situation worse. So Russia is still...
Did someone mock Putin's mother or something?
No, they just went into the talks. NATO were like, we're not going to back down to the 1997 lines, and if Ukraine wants to join NATO, then they can. It's a non-starter. And then Russia went, well, if you're not going to put down in paper on paper that you're not going to do that, then we've got nothing to talk about. And they did that 3 times. So once with NATO, once I think with the US and Russia directly, and I think there's also some other committee where it's like the European Committee for something cooperation. But
so I didn't
anyway,
I didn't hear the talks. I've just read information about them after the fact.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining the opening salvo from NATO was something to the effect of like, your mama a hoe. Yeah, it's you suck my dick.
Yep. To which Russia went, we're trying to treat this really seriously, and NATO went, no.
No, in fact, your mama the hoe, and you can suck my dick. And there's that for about a week.
But it probably comes back to, I guess, with what George said probably a couple of weeks ago, where this whole thing is just a pretext for a Russian operation of some kind. US intelligence has indicated, apparently, this is according to 9 News, which have then taken the article from CNN, that it's got intel that Russia are trying to drum up some sort of, or are trying to potentially put in play some sort of false flag operation in Ukraine, which would, be some sort of attack on Russians in Ukraine, or create some sort of pretext for a Russian invasion or a wider, should we say, Russian invasion of Ukraine. They've already invaded. Crimea was taken in 2014. So it doesn't look like the situation is getting better. What does this mean for everyone else? Why should you be worried? Well, if Europe goes to war, then, or if there are sanctions on Russia, it could affect the global economy for one. So things could get more expensive, or your stocks might crash, or God knows what else. And secondly, it just sucks for freedom in Eastern Europe and the concept that an independent nation can make their own mind up on what they want to do. It's kind of backwards and is kind of reminiscent of the darkest days of the Cold War.
It's good that we've still got NATO. Hey, I did hear some interesting commentary about this, where they talked about the fact that Putin's only got a sort of 6 to 8 week window in order to actually make a move. Like if he were to actually invade, it would have to be in the sort of dead of winter when everything's frozen over in order to sort of transport material and troops across. So it's kind of like a invade or get off the pot kind of situation. So we'll see what happens.
Invade or get off the pot. What would you do, Tom? Would you invade or would you get off the pot?
I think what would I do?
What would you do?
Yeah, Tom's not a megalomaniac, so
I'd probably get off the pot and just deal with what I got. But what will Putin do? I don't know.
Yeah, they did say, I think previously, that if they're going to invade, they should be ready to do it by the end of January. So, I guess we'll see. But fun.
New year, new country. Is that what you're saying, Tom?
Yeah, new country.
It definitely it has got kind of crazy like a fox vibes. Like I think Putin is basically a professional at just being like trying to be so crazy as to be unpredictable at all times, and then hopefully he can jump in and make hay while the sun is shining out of a tactical situation. I don't think he's thought any like what happens to the international rules-based order if countries just start annexing each other, and what happens to the economy, and maybe that'd be actually bad for Russia in the long term. Like I don't think it's anything past just kind of like how can I gain an advantage out of this situation and just look as insane as possible so as to be unpredictable.
It's pretty scary. I'm more worried about this than I am with the China-Taiwan thing. But yeah. And the US have basically already said they're not going to do anything. They'll just put some sanctions on Russia and watch.
Yeah,
quietly.
What do they call it? Strategic uncertainty, where they're like, we're not going to say we are going to invade, but we're not going to say we're not going to invade. Like, I'm sort of ambiguous. I'm invade curious. Like,
yeah, they're like the invasion Ross and Rachel. Just will
won't they? We were on a break.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good analogy, probably, in terms of in terms of the Ukraine-Russia history as well. That's probably a really good analogy for those people who like Friends.
And for those of you who don't, you'll never understand what we mean. On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. I swear to God, I'm going to scream less on the next one. I really do promise to not do that quite as much in the future. Obviously, source material pending. Follow us on all the social medias that do or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and motherfucking TikTok. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. He.
You can follow me on Instagram at AC Doreen.
And you can follow us all down to the tank production facility where we will be giving our input on the definitely useful tanks. Thanks for listening, guys. Love your faces. We'll see you next week.